Welcome to Invested Souls, the podcast where real estate expertise meets relationship growth.
And we're your hosts, the Flanagans. I'm Brad.
And I'm Jamie. This podcast is your chance to learn from our experiences and follow in our footsteps. Whether you're an entrepreneur, investor, or real estate professional, we've got the insights and strategies to help you elevate your wealth and achieve financial freedom.
But it's not just all about real estate. We believe that thriving in life means nurturing the relationships that matter most.
That's right. We'll be talking about how to balance your personal and professional life so you can create a fulfilling and prosperous future.
So join us on Invested Souls and let's grow together in wealth, relationships, and success.
Ready to elevate your life? Let's get started. Welcome to Invested Souls. Welcome back. We are on the Invested Souls today. This is Jamie Flanagan, and today I have Holly Haws. She is, I love your story. So was a real estate agent, turned investor, and now she coaches agents on how to buy investment properties and really create the legacy that they deserve, retire earlier than they hoped. So Holly, anything you'd like to add to your intro here?
No, I think that sounds great. I'm really excited to be here and have a conversation with you, Jamie.
Same. Okay. So you were selling real estate. You said you kind of did it backwards. So you were selling real estate for 10 years. Tell me about your real estate journey and did you love 10 years is a long time to be in real estate? I mean, I feel it. And I go back and forth. I'm like, sometimes I love it. And sometimes I'm like, I never want to sell another house again. And then it ebbs and flows. But so what shifted for you, or how did you feel when you were selling real estate? Did you feel burned out? Was it the hours? What made you transition?
Yeah, great question. So I'll try to be brief and amazing with my response. I transitioned into real estate. I was a high school math teacher. I taught for 6 years and got into real estate because we had spent a year paying off $29,000 worth of student loans. And so as a teacher, I was a teacher. My husband was a paramedic. We were making an $80,000 a year combined salary. And so $29,000 in a year meant we worked every overtime job we could possibly get. I did home tutoring. I did regular tutoring. I did curriculum development at summer school, like all the things, and got back to my last fall that I taught really burned out of teaching, but also knowing after you've worked 60 and 70 hours a week, you can't go back to a regular teacher schedule. And teachers complain a lot, but I mean, really, you can do a teacher schedule on 30 hours a week. Once you're experienced and you know what you're teaching. And so I got my real estate license because I did the math, and I thought the math said I could teach during the day and sell 4 houses a year and make the same amount of money that I had made working all those extra jobs last year. And I thought, surely I can sell 4 houses a year. So in that first 7 months, October to May, finishing up my teaching contract, I sold 16 homes, and it was kind of a no-brainer that I liked the teaching, but I really loved, there was a lot of real estate that just clicked so well with me, and it matched. The 16 houses in my first 7 months, and it was kind of a no-brainer. Real estate is my path. I liked teaching, but there was a lot more that I liked about real estate and found really exciting. And I was really good at real estate. You know, they talk a lot in the industry about rainmakers, and I have the ability to make it rain. I can turn on the leads. I can get the business. I don't have any problem with that. And so I ran the typical agent path. I brought on an assistant. I cycled through some agents and some more assistants, and tried to grow that, big, huge team where I could step out of production that way. I would also every couple of years kind of get bored, and so I'd add something new. I got bored and I started working with out-of-state investors, which is its whole new different type of challenge. I got bored and I added my commercial real estate license, my commercial real estate experience. I started delving into commercial real estate. I got bored. I added a broker's license, and kind of just got to a point where about 1,000 transactions in, there's just nothing super exciting anymore. The adrenaline dump that you get as a newer agent when you're selling your first few houses, it's harder and harder to get the more transactions that you get. Yep. And during that time, I had been introduced to the opportunity of coaching other agents. And that kind of brought back in my love of teaching high school students, only these were people who were paying for my services. They actually wanted to learn what I had to say. And so it kind of was the marrying of both worlds. And when it came time to start a family, I said, I didn't hate selling real estate, but I would just really prefer coaching. I still get to solve all the same problems inside of coaching. I just ultimately am not the implementer of the problems. I can give the solution and then I get to go be with my family. So
Totally. It's so interesting. Teachers do so well in this business. And
yes.
really, I mean, as an agent, like, because you have experience educating, like you really do have an experience of bringing people through and helping them understand. And that's the most important thing in real estate, is helping people understand what's happening next, if it's a big deal or not. Like,
Yes.
it's funny, we talk about like emotional, but like bringing the emotions in, it's like you control the transaction. If you freak out, your client's going to freak out. If you're like super calm, your client's going to be calm. And just navigating that and gaining that trust really quickly.
And I've learned so much of it is pre-frame. Anything can happen during a transaction, but if I've told you that it's coming, then you're not flipped out when it happens.
Right.
But the smallest flip in the radar could happen that totally happens every single transaction. And if I haven't pre-framed it, if I haven't said this is what's going to happen, then you're mad at me. We're enemies. You can't believe I did that to you. And so, yeah, emotions are a big deal. And it really is, how are we as the professionals controlling the conversation? We have every opportunity to keep this smooth for everyone.
So, and that transfers over to investments too, right? Because it's like, I don't know. I have a lot of really calm. I do have, not all of them, but most of my investors are pretty calm, which is why I like working with them, because it's non-emotional, right? It's like, it is a business transaction and it's totally different. It's like, does it work or does it not work? Great. Okay, move on, or let's move through it. But I do like that about like the investment side of like working in real estate, is that there's just like there, but you also with your tenants, and there's compassion, and there's a level of like still like creating customer experience. Do you do short-term or long-term midterm rentals?
I do a mixture personally of midterm and long terms. I'm not a massive fan of the short term, although I do have a few clients that dabble there as well.
Yeah, we've got a couple short-term, but almost all of our short-term we've converted to midterm. And we did the short-term, we do them for our vacation homes. It's like, okay, we want to visit here, we're spending money on vacation, we need to buy a property here and be able to make the payment, be able to pay for the house. So that's what we've done with the short-term. But it's fascinating because obviously lately, and with coaching, this probably comes up, is like the cash flow that we've noticed, the midterm rentals cash flow so much better than the short term right now. And
they're so much more predictable. Even if they're cash flowing slightly less, like you don't have 30 days worth of vacancy with a midterm if it's advertised properly and priced properly. The vacancy, I have properties that this year will be vacant 3 days or less for the entire year.
That's amazing.
And it's kind of a no-brainer when you actually get into the midterm space. It's like, my question every year is, how many more of my long terms do I want to convert into midterms?
Same, us too. I'm like, do I take my state? We actually bought a sixplex a couple of years ago. We planned on long-term renting it, but the renovation costs went like through the roof, and we were like, shit, now what do we do? Because we have to pay this, like, we have to make this work or sell the building. So we're like, all right, let's just try it out, all this extra staging furniture. So we're like, okay, let's put it all in these units. And they've done so well. And I'm like, we haven't had a vacant, a couple days, but like maybe a week, maybe 10 days is like the most in the last 4 years. Now I'm like, okay, we have this other apartment building. Do we convert all of it to midterm?
Yes. I'm doing the exact same thing. My favorite property that I own is a quadplex, and the tenants have stayed. We purchased it in 2020, and the tenants have stayed through hundreds of dollars worth of rent increases because it's just a really great property, and it was massively under rented. Like there was massive potential rent, totally.
Yeah.
And so it's still a good deal for them. Well, we finally had our vacancy last fall, and I converted it to a midterm, and it's doing fantastic. And so we actually on August 1st will be another rent increase. And I'm hoping that somebody gives me a 30-day notice. Like I don't want to kick them out of their place,
right.
But also like I'll happily convert any of those other units into midterms.
100%. And furnishing them, like, when they're like those smaller, like the fourplex, it's like furnishing them is actually really affordable. It's
like
not
$4 to $5 grand. I see people spend $15,000, $20,000, $30,000 for furnishing like a little 2-bedroom apartment. Mine are only 1 bed, so that's even more affordable.
So money.
But my rule of thumb on that, and I don't know if this will be helpful for your audience or not, but my rule of thumb is the extra that you can make profit wise between a long term and a midterm. So, like, let's say you're going to net an extra $500 a month because it's a midterm rental instead of it being a long term rental. That extra increase needs to pay for your furniture in the first 12 months. And if you can work the math that way, right? So if it's an extra $500 a month and you've got $6,000 as your furniture budget, because in the first year, your furniture / furnishings is all paid for. And now you're just rolling in dough.
Yeah.
Now it's like pure profit, because that's the other thing about midterms versus short terms. People don't rent a midterm place to live there. They rent it for a place to sleep after working a 14-hour shift.
Right.
So they don't tear up your furniture the way that a short-term tenant would tear up the furniture.
Are you pet friendly?
With some I am, and with some I'm not.
That's
I always charge a deposit, and I know that at some point I'm going to get back in a whoops of a property, but so far I've had decent experience.
It's like on our midterms, we like the most is we do have like a ton of dog fur sometimes, but those units are also like we have 2 units dedicated in the 6-plex just to pets. Yep. I'm like, and it's always surprising me because sometimes I'll walk around like, oh, you can totally tell either. But if you have pets, I guess that's probably normal for you. Like, like if you're traveling with your dog, you're used to being in a dog friendly unit, so it makes sense.
Yep.
I was going to ask you, okay, so what is coaching like? If they're like, oh my gosh, I need help. What does that look like with you? Like, do you do an onboarding call? Do you help anybody? Do you have a kind of an ideal audience that you help?
Yeah. So at this point, where I'm at, I tell people jump into some of my free classes, get to know me a little bit, like look around, explore the scenery, that sort of thing. I teach a couple of master classes every quarter. And so if you want to move into more of like a paid space, there are ways to kind of, again, test the waters without being super committed. When it comes to a one-on-one relationship, I absolutely do an onboarding call, usually 2 onboarding calls. My target avatar client is what I like to say. My avatar client is a successful real estate agent who has some discretionary income and they know they need to be purchasing investment properties. It is really nice if someone has worked with investors a little bit in the past and they can kind of speak that language. But as long as they would put themselves in that, like, better than the average realtor category, they've got some good experience, we can kind of speak a similar agent language, then they're probably someone I can help.
Totally. Love that. So where's the best place to find you online or for people to connect with you, follow you? Podcast? Do you have a podcast?
I don't have a podcast.
No, okay.
Pressure that I should start one. I don't have a podcast. So you can find me on Facebook. Probably the easiest, honestly, is my website, hollyhaws.com. Pretty hard to mess it up. And I was going to say, if you're interested in the free classes, it's just hollyhaws.com/free class. And that'll get you right to a page where you can sign up. I teach 1 or 2 free classes a month on Tuesdays. And like I said, anyone is welcome to just come in and kind of get an idea for what my content looks like. I'm always happy to help.
For sure. Okay. Love that. Do you have what's your biggest, if you were to go back and all of the things you've sold, lots of houses, I mean, a lot, you said, did you say 1,000 houses?
Yeah, it was right at 1,000 houses in like 9.5 years.
Yeah, that's a freaking ton of houses. It's funny because you were in a market like Nebraska, our average sale price is so low.
Yeah.
That for us to make like good baller money, we have to sell a lot of freaking houses.
Yeah. There are a few groups that I used to be a part of that in order to be in the group, you had to sell 75 houses a year for 2 years or more. And people would fight and claw to get into the group. But I looked around and there were like 9 people from my market center in the group from my brokerage. And I'm like, but then it clicked. Oh yeah, our average price point is so low that if you're not selling 75 houses a year, you're actually not making a decent living.
Right.
So, and I think units are your best friend. I don't care how low your average price point is or how high it is. I think you need to be talking in terms of units.
It's right. Cause it just depends. Like I go back and forth because I'm like, I help a lot of luxury clients and then I work in the investor world. So it's like, I'll have $150,000 sale and then a $750,000 sale. And I'm like, I used to work in the middle ground a lot, but now I'm like, it's like one or the other. But it is so interesting because the investor stuff feeds your pipeline. You get the sign, like more sign. It's just, it all plays into it, and finding like what works for you and like what you can manage. I really like the investor properties because they're vacant, they're easy to show. You can get in them. I don't always have to meet somebody on site. Like I can do a FaceTime video or whatever, and I'm not coordinating with somebody. So I'm like, if I get a sign call, it's really easy to navigate that, especially like as a mom. I'm like, it's busy and we're trying to figure out with our schedules. I was going to ask you, so 1,000 units is a lot of units, but what's your biggest like scary story, or like, oh my gosh, I couldn't believe this happened. And even in all the houses I had ever sold, or in an investment property that you've had, like what's your biggest like, whoa?
Well, so I have a few like contractor woes, right? And one of the big ones, one of the first ones, and it's big because it was one of the first ones. I started dabbling in helping some of my investor clients coordinate getting bids, and then I would coordinate helping oversee the repair process, because that's how you get to work with out of state investors. Is you kind of have to step in and do some of those jobs that most real estate agents would say that's not my job. You don't get to do that if you want to work with out of state clients. And so I had this house and it needed everything. Like it was almost a complete gut to the studs job. And we hired a contractor. He had done a job for me and done reasonably well. So it was his second job for me. And he just kept getting stuck in the clean out phase. And he kept sending these receipts for dump fees. And we were like triple over budget on the clean out, and we were not even halfway done with the clean out. And I finally sent somebody else over because it just was feeling weird.
Yeah.
Anyway, they were smoking meth in the basement and were like totally just going to see how far they could abuse this relationship, had decided that I was a great candidate to rip off. And so then it was that process of like, how do I help make this investor whole again? Because he didn't have triple the budget for the clean out. We had very carefully allocated funds, and it was based off of this contractor doing the work. And now that contractor clearly isn't doing the work. So I needed to find another contractor at the same price. It was a big, huge debacle. So what I would say is there's a lot of opportunity in starting to take over jobs for out-of-state investors, but walk that bridge very carefully. I wish I would have kind of slowly walked my way into it. That was probably my third time managing a job for another investor. Yeah. And I wish it wouldn't have been a full house gut. I wish it would have been like a $5,000 job. That would have been so much easier to stomach and manage. So yeah, walk slowly down the road of doing repairs and managing the process for other people. Although truly, like I also will say that you will not get to work with out-of-state investors. You will not have access to the doctors and the lawyers and the people that have super high income, but just flat out don't have the time or the desire to learn the investing industry. Like it's great to take on all those jobs, but just do them with caution and give yourself lots of experience before you step yourself up. Yeah.
I would agree 100%. So I work with investors, and a lot of them are like, it's funny. The one that I work with the most is actually a local investor, but he's hands off. It's like he really hires me to handle the job, like from when he buys the house to getting it sold. But it is interesting. Just lately, I'm like, gosh, I've been doing this business since 2010, and some of the property stuff that we come across with his properties, I'm like, oh, this is new. This is new. Like, what did I get myself into? Because I did not know this was a thing. Like, we recently had a gas line that was like, we had our utilities shut off to the house, and we didn't even know they were off. So I think an agent called in, smelled gas. So the utilities were off. We sold the property. Inspector goes over there. Gas is off. We call. They think the gas is on. So we're like, okay, their gas is back on. You can send the inspector back out. Long story short, we finally get the gas. They're like, oh, we can't turn on the gas because there's a gas leak, that the pipe going into the water heater was not elevated enough. And so the gas was coming back in the house. But anyways, it was like run through the garage. And so there's no way to fix it we're talking like over $10,000 to fix this tiny gas line. So then we're like, okay, we'll convert the thing to electrical. But anyways, it was just like, wow, like usually just swap out the water heater for it. Like shouldn't be a big deal, but now we have to replace the panel and all this stuff. But it's crazy how things can escalate so quickly. And it's like, okay, these 10 can go great. And then one can be like massively over budget. And you're like, wow, like you can't plan. There's certain things you just can't plan for, but setting the expectation that it can happen.
Well, it's that. So you have to have pre-framed that. Like the expectation has to be clearly set. And if you're going to get in the line of managing anything that would typically not fall under an agent's job duties, it needs to come with a very clear contract of who's responsible for what and who's ultimately paying for what, right? Because in that instance, in the story that I gave you, like he was just paying the people I said to pay. And so I'm the one that ate it. And it was fine. I chalked it up as an education lesson. And I moved on with my life, and I learned how to vet a contractor better next time, and how to catch fraudulent dump fee receipts. Like I wouldn't have even known to look for that, but yeah, you can fraudulently make up a receipt for anything. And apparently that's something that I needed to look for. But I see a lot of agents that they'll get into trouble, only they won't step up and say, well, that's on me, right? And that's fine if you've clearly pre-framed.
Yep.
And then on the other side of it is, I see a lot of agents do a lot of extra things like this for their clients, and they never ever think about, I should be compensated for that. So that's the other thing. Like whatever your commission is, right? Your commission covers the commission activities. If you're doing things that are above and beyond, that's an additional value that should come with additional compensation or even ownership in the project. And sometimes I think if agents would even just think in that direction, like you could be way further on your own path to retirement.
Totally. And that's a really good point. I'm going to share this with a lot of people. That is such a good point, because we talk about like in the beginning, you're brand new, right? And I do coach agents, and I'm like, hey, when you're getting ramped up, like, do you feel, and there's some brokerages that coach, like, go get that full commission, which if you're doing all the activities, if you're doing the marketing correctly and you feel confident, absolutely. However, there is like a learning curve. And now I'm like so far into my career, but I like, this is an investor. He also has a real estate license, but I get paid well. I'm like, if I'm going to do this for you, my commission is going up, and I base it on how many contractors we hire. So it's like, if I'm managing 1 to 2, this is my commission. If I'm managing 3 to 5, this is my commission. And then if it's over that, then we talk about like, it's like case by case. Sometimes we just buy the property and then we actually are the ones to flip it, because it's like the amount of work that this needs. It makes more sense for us to figure out what does it look like for me to just purchase the property. But then that's a way to get, like, now your investor becomes a source for you to find your investment properties.
Yep.
So, but yeah, I definitely agree. Like 100%, like what you're doing for your investors, like make sure you're getting compensated for it, because it is a lot of work and it is a lot of time.
Yep. Well, and so you've built it all in as part of like a commission structure. Mm-hmm. I did a flat fee, totally separate. And so here's my commission. And I was crystal clear, like, I'll find the deals for you. If you start sending me properties on Zillow, you're just going to bog down the process, and it's going to take longer for me to find you a property. If you send me a deal on Zillow, there's a reason. I've already seen it. There's a reason why I haven't sent it to you. And most agents can't say that. But the really good ones, right? Like, I can do the deal sourcing myself. I'm totally fine. So my commission is my commission. And if you want to work with me, that's my commission. If you would like me to also do the rehab management, I had a document, and we did 3 tiers: light, medium, and heavy rehab. I selected the tier. So you don't let the investor select the tier, but I selected the tier, and they agreed to that separate. If I were doing it again, if I were just starting over, I would create a separate LLC for the rehab management portion.
Super smart.
And so then at closing, I got 2 checks at closing. I got a check for my broker with my commission, and then I got a check to my company for the rehab management. I would just have, in the future, I would have that rehab management company be totally separate LLC from where I was doing my sales business. And then the contract that goes with that, like, it's literally, yes, I'm an employee of both, but it's a totally separate division. Like, this is my responsibility versus, well, this is part of your commission and I need you to cut your commission by 0.5%. Like, it just doesn't come up in the
Right.
flat fee world because no, you're paying for my rehab management services over here.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
That's great advice. Okay, well, I will. So we'll put all of how to contact you in the show notes. So if you guys want to get in touch with Holly, go find her on her website. Find her on. I found you on Facebook. Love your Facebook. You do some stuff with VAs. I didn't go into that today, but you help people. I help people hire VAs as well, but it's kind of like I help more like the real estate agent get like an executive admin is pretty much my like, you need help making sure your emails get responded to and your calendar is coordinated and your showings are scheduled. So super cool. So we both dabble in that space, but it looked like you do some courses around that. So that's super cool. I was stalking you a little bit. So I love the work that you're doing and definitely love for my listeners to go follow Holly and go find out what she's all about. And you're locally in Dallas, right? So
yep, we're in the Dallas area.
And you had a real estate business in Wichita.
Yep, Wichita, Kansas.
Super cool. All right. Thank you so much, Holly. Appreciate you coming on today.
Yeah, it was a pleasure to be here.
Thanks for tuning in to Invested Souls.
We hope you found our insights valuable and feel inspired to elevate your real estate and relationship goals.
If you enjoyed the episode, please subscribe, rate, and leave us a review. Your feedback means a lot to us.
Follow us on social media for more tips and updates, or visit bradandjamieflanagan.com. And to find out more about our Real Estate Wealth Accelerator, don't hesitate to reach out.
Until next time, keep investing in your future and nurturing your relationships. Thanks for listening to Invested Souls.